morning, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. So in this morning's video, we're going to be taking a look at the tropics here. Before I get into that, make sure you guys are smashing that like button, decimating that subscribe button, and also hitting that share button too. Because some interesting things are about to happen. I've been harping on this before, but as time goes on, I can expect the Atlantic to get a lot more active here. But the Pacific, interestingly enough, is going to be a lot quieter, at least towards the Eastern Pacific. Western Pacific, that's a different story. We have a super typhoon right now. It's starting to weaken now. It might just be might have just been downgraded to an actual typhoon. I'm not sure how to pronounce this name. It's Doksuri, but it is still a super typhoon at the moment, but it is going to be heading on to more of a weakening trend as it gets closer and closer to land, thankfully. So as of right now, there are no warnings that I can speak of at this time. But we'll see what happens with that as it makes a close pass to Taiwan and may impact to the east of Hong Kong here. So make sure you guys are extra weather aware over across these regions here. Rarely get to talk about this area too much, but it's interesting to see how things are unfolding here. This is in the, I'm trying to read this here, the Luzon Strait heading towards the Taiwan Strait, but it will miss a lot of the larger towns here. But my concern is with this being more towards the rural areas is these guys may not be quite as prepared. There's still some pretty larger towns too, some pretty large towns here too, like Shima, Jinjiang, Zimmel, and Luoyang. I hope I'm pronouncing those right. That being said, here's a look at the storm on satellite. Really impressive, almost textbook-like structure for a hurricane or a typhoon. You can see the little buzzsaw going there. You can see the feeder bands. Everything looks like it's supposed to for a hurricane, and it probably is going through what's called an eye wall replacement cycle. So there is a small chance it could strengthen a little bit more. But in all likelihood, we're going to start to see this begin to downtrend a bit here. Pretty confident here at this point that this is going to be making landfall. There are a few scenarios here where this does still make a close pass or even a landfall in Taiwan. And it's not like Hong Kong's out of the woods either, so we definitely need to be keeping an extra close eye on this area over the next couple of days. With this area here, it's interesting too. This is going to be the next area of interest. Right now, the chances of cyclone development are low, and it may stay low if it stays on the same track that it's going currently. Thing is, with this storm, once you start following a much more major storm like this, for example, it causes what's called a lot of upwelling, where those warm sea surface temperatures that you would need for a hurricane to develop, when upwelling occurs, you end up getting more cooler water to go to the surface versus that warm surface water. So this could kind of tame the waters a little bit and ultimately keep this storm potentially a bit more tame as well. Interestingly enough, there are a few models here that bring this up towards category 5 strength for a brief period of time. At max, it would be about 24 hours worth, and then after that, it would weaken substantially, especially as it draws closer to land here. So, again, a lot of interesting stuff going on here with this storm. So, now that we've looked at that, let's go ahead and make sure we got the forward speed right. I only see the wind speed on here, unfortunately. It's the only issue that we have with these storms over towards the Western Pacific. I can't really get a lot of data right now. But somewhere in this report probably is the wind speed, or forward speed, excuse me. Okay, I found it. It's 12 miles an hour. It's 11 knots, basically. So this is going to still be taking its time heading in. So I'm highly doubtful that this will end up being a category 5. By probably the next couple of days, like I said, this will probably impact land. Where it goes is still questionable at this time, because as we saw with the spaghetti models, it's still kind of up in the air, so to speak. Because, yes, this is the main track right here in the blue, but look at where all the models are going. Some are going towards Taiwan again. Some of these are going towards Hong Kong. Some are going down the middle. So that basically says there's a lot of uncertainty with this storm. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at these couple of areas over here towards the Atlantic. Very low chance of development here. 10% chance overall for this area, and then 20% chance of development here within the next 7 days. This one could end up on a track that's a little bit closer to the U.S. This one may head more so towards Mexico, maybe even the Yucatan Peninsula, if it can hold up. The problem with this area right now is the same thing that we've been dealing with, and that's wind shear. Wind shear is definitely going to be the main reason that these two would not form into our next named storms here. There is still a chance, but like I said, it's pretty minimal at this time. As far as Hawaii and Eastern Pacific, not much to really talk about there. So this is pretty much it for our end of the deal as far as our current situation is concerned. One reason as to why the Pacific actually isn't going to be as active is because with it being an El Nino year, take a look at this. This little blue area is cooler than average waters. So if we were already just barely at the threshold here, and we're seeing these darker blue colors here, where we're about 2 degrees Celsius below our typical point, more than likely the waters are not hospitable for any new tropical development. While when we look over to the Atlantic, different story here. So we clear up this wind shear. We have some jet fuel over here, especially towards the Gulf, and that's why I'm very concerned about this area. Then also the main development region, which is right here. This has to be watched very closely too, because some big storms can occur here, and depending on the steering at the higher levels, this could end up pushing it out this way or this way. Our hope is that this happens more. We see more of these getting pushed off out to sea early on, so that way they don't have a chance of impacting land at all. Also want to note just how warm it is off to the south of Greenland here. That's crazy. But as a whole here, we definitely need to be keeping an extra close eye over towards the Atlantic as time goes on. Maybe towards the South Pacific as well. And some good news here is that the waters are about average, maybe a little bit cooler in a couple points over here towards the southwestern Pacific. So some positivity to be had there. So maybe we won't see as much development. Over towards Japan, it's a little bit different of a story, so that's going to be another point of interest as time goes on. So we'll see what happens with that. Now with the wind shear situation, this is the Atlantic as a whole. Here's where our two tropical systems will end up being at right now. And this one's going to have a lot to go up against here as far as wind shear is concerned. And so will this one for right now. But I want you to note what happens as time goes on. As we continue to go forward, especially as we get closer and closer to August, look at how this wind shear starts to weaken and really just dissipate. First we see it over our main development region, and then as this ridge builds in that I've been talking about over here towards the southwest, it pretty much helps dissolve that wind shear as a whole. Oops, I don't know what just happened there. But let's get back to where we were. But this ridge is going to help dissolve that wind shear entirely. So these storms, should they develop over towards these couple of straits right here, this could become very concerning for Mexico, the U.S., the Caribbean islands, Leeward Islands, and more. So like I said, this is the time to start watching and maybe even prepare. So as time goes on, like I said, the wind shear doesn't really come back anytime soon here. So could be open season here for a minute, at least not until the middle of August, but we'll have to see whether this holds out or not. But I've been kind of seeing this trend over the last couple of weeks here. Definitely need to be keeping an extra close eye on this. Over towards the Pacific, we already know the situation. With the waters being cooler, the chance of tropical development is going to be decreasing. And then wind shear is kind of on the increase over here, almost like the exact opposite of what's going on towards the Atlantic. As time goes on, we do get it to weaken. However, the waters are going to be the main area in question. With it being an El Nino, usually we end up having cooler waters over towards the Pacific. So we'll have to see what happens with this. But that's all I got for you guys on this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you found it useful, you know what to do. Smash that like button. If you're new, decimate that subscribe button. And make sure you get the bell on so you can be notified of every video. This has been Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care and have a nice day.